Hey, what's going on everyone? Today I'm going to talk about my top 10 movies of 2021. First and foremost, I need to mention that I haven't seen every movie in 2021, so there's definitely going to be some movies that I left out that I wish I added, and maybe some movies that I wish I never added to this list at all. Alright, let's get into it. Honorable mentions go to Shang-Chi, Promising Young Woman, and Nobody. I really like these movies, and they just barely got edged out of the top 10. So if you haven't seen them already, I definitely recommend it. Alright, so number 10 goes to A Quiet Place Part 2. The continuation of the story of an apocalyptic world ravaged by blind aliens that will kill anything that makes any kind of noise. The first movie was one of my favorite movies of 2018, so it makes sense that I would love Part 2. This series of movies is one of my favorite franchises out right now, and it really showed me that the first one wasn't just a fluke. The way the movie tells its story around the element of sound really makes it stand out in a sea of other apocalypse movies. What I really liked about A Quiet Place Part 2 is that it's very much a part 2. The movie continues right where one left off, but also tells the backstory, making both movies feel very much as though they're part of the same universe. With the family having to leave their home from the first film, Part 2 turns more into an adventure film, but still keeps all the survival and world-building elements from the first movie. Next on the list at number 9 is The Last Duel. Now, I did a full review on The Last Duel, and you can check it out right here, but basically the reason why this movie comes in at number 9 for me is because it's just an expertly crafted film. It's not higher on my list because there are some scenes that do drag on a bit long, I felt, and I feel like it could have been a little bit tighter, but the acting, cinematography, writing, and directing is so well done that I just had to put it in my top 10. Alright, coming in at number 8 is Riders of Justice. This movie might be a little bit unknown at the moment since it's a German movie, but Mads Mikkelsen, and I mean like usual, just absolutely kills it in this role. On the surface, this movie might seem like a kind of simple revenge story, but as the movie progresses, it becomes much more complicated than that. At first, the characters each seem that they have good intentions, just like very black and white, good and bad, but as the movie goes on, you really start to question their motivations and intentions. The movie's plot eventually just kind of snowballs until the characters are left in a place where the audience doesn't really know if the characters were ever even good to begin with, or if that power just kind of corrupted them. Overall, it's just an excellent movie and it deserves way more attention. Alright, at lucky number 7, we have Judas and the Black Messiah, a very culturally important movie right now, but even ignoring that, the movie itself is just excellent. Going in, I didn't really have much knowledge on Fred Hampton or the Black Panthers, so this was sort of an introduction for me. And this movie seriously gave me chills. Daniel Kaluuya's portrayal of Fred Hampton kept me completely engaged. This movie might be a little bit hard to watch given the frustrating injustice of it all, but it's definitely a movie worth watching and a movie that people need to watch. At number 6 is The Suicide Squad. Taking some characters from the 2016 movie and giving them a proper story with depth and some new characters mixed in, this movie just shows that James Gunn is just a master of superhero ensembles. The witty dialogue mixed with the physical comedy I think had some of the funniest scenes in 2021. Like the scene where Bloodsport and Peacemaker are trying to show each other up through a killing contest is hilarious on its own, but then the added extra layer of just who they were killing really put this movie over the top for me, and that's why it had to make my top 10. Coming in at number 5 is a movie that I did not anticipate being so high on my list, The Mitchells vs. the Machines. I thought this movie was just flat out wholesome. With a year filled with movies with socio-political commentary, this movie isn't very different given the fact that it's about a family trying to take down a tech billionaire's runaway AI, but at the heart lies a really grounded movie based on the importance of family. The film touches on the theme of differences in generations, and I think it tries to reconcile those differences a little bit by having the family save the world together. Alright, number 4. So this movie did come out pretty recently, and I might need some time for the hype to die down, but at number 4 is Don't Look Up. Again, I have a full review on this movie, and you can check it out right here. But basically what I love so much about this movie wasn't just the social commentary, but the humor is what sold it for me. The movie's humor walks the line between a little too absurd and possible, with characters that seem over the top but not completely unrealistic. We don't really get this type of comedy these days, a dark and unironically accurate portrayal of our over-the-top society. The movie left me feeling frustrated, happy, sad, and basically at the end of the movie, I couldn't tell whether to laugh or cry. Alright, coming in at number 3 is another movie that I might need some time for the hype to die down, but number 3 is SpiderMan No Way Home. Now, I just saw this movie very recently, and I might be a little bit blind with nostalgia, but I think it's one of the best MCU movies ever made. The way they brought back all the best characters from all the old Spider-Man movies, and they did it in a really organic way. So the movie didn't feel like it was made for fan service. Yes, there is a lot of fan service in this movie, and if you haven't seen all 7 previous Spider-Man movies, then you might not get as much out of it. So it's very much a Spider-Man movie for Spider-Man fans. But the way the story is told, all this nostalgia doesn't really feel like it's forced. And the scene where the Spider-Men are talking and comparing their differences and similarities just honestly was one of the best scenes of 2021. Alright, that brings us to my second favorite movie of the year, Pig. I wish I could put this movie at number 1, I really do, but it just barely comes in at number 2. I really had no idea what to expect going into this movie, other than the fact that the reviews were oddly high for like a new Nicolas Cage movie. And I guess when you have Nicolas Cage in a movie, you never really know what you're gonna get. But this is maybe his best movie ever. This is Nicolas Cage at the height of his acting. This is like Raising Arizona, Leaving Las Vegas adaptation Nicolas Cage. He portrays a character with a ton of depth, and the movie just kind of throws you into this world that you're really not expecting. And then on top of that, it just keeps adding layers and layers of depth the more you unravel this mystery. The scene where Nicolas Cage is talking to a former coworker about his passions and his life dreams and everything like that, that scene alone deserves an Oscar nomination. This movie completely shattered my expectations, and I'm so glad I decided to watch it. And coming in at my top spot of the year is Dune. Part 1. Yes, I know that this movie is just a setup for a sequel, but it's the best setup for a sequel movie that I've ever seen. The way in which Denis Villeneuve creates the world of Dune is just masterful. Everything from the sets to the acting to the sound design, everything is just perfect. Personally, I love world building when it comes to movies, and this is world building at its absolute best. I think each role was perfectly casted, and I must have seen this movie like a dozen times since its release. So you can imagine how happy I was when I heard the news that the studio got greenlit for part 2. But regardless of a sequel, this movie gave me a very humbling experience just through the sheer scale of everything. And the way the film introduces this world of Dune makes me really excited for the future of this franchise, and as long as Denis Villeneuve is behind it, then I'm totally on board. So that's my top 10 movies of 2021. If you have any suggestions or maybe some that you didn't agree with, please comment below and let me know. And as always, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.